Hi ladies and gentlemen, my name is Paul Emaus and I'm going to try something new today. I wanted to do a little video presentation for horizon gas planning. Okay, so what is he talking about? Well, today I wanted to talk about SSI Mars Horizon gas planning. Or more specifically, do I have enough gas if I dive with the machine? Because this is a question I get a lot. And a lot of people seem to just get it, maybe not really get it, but I get a lot of questions regarding this this dive planning. So I just wanted to see if people are interested in this and do a little video presentation of gas planning. So obviously what I need is I need the table for SCR, DPS, metric English tables, or basically the dive planner for the horizon. It's a little bit different than the extended range one, which you might have seen before, but there are some similarities that that you might know. And hopefully you've already seen one of these. So obviously, if we want to plan a dive, we need to first figure out if we can do this dive based with the gas that we have, but also we need to figure out if there's any decompression obligations, right? And for any type of diving, I always recommend to either use maybe your backup computer Shearwater dive planner or use your Android or iPhone. I personally really like a piece of software called deco. It's old, but it works really, really well actually, and it gives me, for me and for my students, a pretty representation of the dive. I think it's pretty clear. So if I use, and I'll just pop it up in a second. If I use iDeco, the first thing I always want to do is I want to go to settings and make sure that a couple of things are there. Obviously, there's some standard information, but I want to go to sec, last stop, and ascent and descents. I always stop at 6 meters. That's a whole different discussion, but for now, leave it for what it is. The sec rate is not really important, but it's for our open circuit divers out there. Descent and ascent speed we'll leave as it is. Perfect. And I also want to look at my gradient factors. And gradient factors is a really nice and hot topic. Obviously, a lot of people have their opinions about that. If you really like this video, I might do a video about this. But for now, we check it's 5075, which I'm pretty happy with. Cool. So with that said, the maximum operating depth for the horizon is over the 40 meters. So I'll put 40 meters in. And 40 meters is, as you know, the NDL is fairly short, certainly if we have our gradient factors applied. So let's say I want to dive for 25 minutes. And obviously I need to figure out what my oxygen content is. We can quickly calculate that, right? So let's have a look at that. 40 divided by 10 plus 1, right? This is always the depth divided by 10 equation if you talk about meters. So 40 divided by 10 is 4. So we cancel that out. Plus 1 obviously is 5. So 5 bar. If we take our Dalton triangle or the T formula, whatever you want to call it, for the horizon, the maximum operating depth, partial pressure is 1.6. We know the depth. So therefore, we can figure out what the percentage of oxygen is. So let's go quickly here in our calculator and have a look. 1.6 divided by 5 atmospheres is an oxygen percentage of 32. So we obviously can also check that in our dive planner software. And we put that here on 32. There's no helium. Sorry, I was also teaching something else quite recent. And now we're happy. Cool. Let's not put any deco gas in there right now. But you can see that we have a little dive plan. 40 meters for 25 minutes on EN32 will yield this plan. But hang on. The horizon doesn't do the gas that we give it, right? So we need to do -3 if we want to put it on -3, or maybe we want to put on, let's say, let's do 26. Yeah, so you see that our decompression obligation changed a little bit. And obviously that's because of the nitrogen loading. If you have less oxygen in your loop, there must be something else. But this looks pretty good for me right now. So I have 40 meters for 25 minutes. And then we ascend to 30, we ascend to 20. There's a stop at 12, a stop for 3 minutes at 9, and then a stop for 22 minutes at 6. So far so good. Apparently, if you on an open circuit, you use an obscene amount of gas, but we'll get there in a second. Let's make this dive a little bit shorter, right? Not shorter as in shorter bottom time, but let's add in the eco gas. I mean, if you dive at horizon, you can take 2 gases, given that you did the extended range version of the course, of course. So that deco gas, we need to figure out, right? We can see in our dive plan that the first stop is 12 meters. So we have 1.6, 2.2. Let's see what the answer is. So 1.6 divided by 2.2 is 72. Perfect. So now we know. But as we know, we can't use 72 because that's directly coming out of the cylinder. The horizon has the rule of thumb that we take 3 off. That's a longer, different discussion, but hopefully we understand that. So we can put it on 69. So this is the gases that we'll use. In our program, we have now our deco plan, or our entire dive plan actually, and I'm pretty happy with this. So 25 minutes of 40 meters. And then we go up for 1 minute, we go another up for 1 minute. We have a stop actually at 12. Then we have a stop at 9 for 2 minutes, and then we go to 6 meters and we stay there for 9 minutes. Very good. So this is a pretty good plan to see. So let's actually put this into the dive planner. So we always start with our deepest part of the dive, which is 40 meters. So there we have 40 meters. The dive time is 25 minutes. And therefore the runtime will be 25 minutes. Now, what I then do is I always put an empty space on the next line, and then I will put my first deco stop. So if we look at our dive plan, the first deco stop is obviously 12 meters. I don't know the dive time and run time yet. I have to calculate it. So we have to think about it in a second. Now, if you look at the dive planning sheets, you can see here that there's an ascent depth formula. Ascent depth is maximum dive depth minus your first deco stop divided by 2 plus your first deco stop. This gives the most accurate way of calculating your ascent depth. There's another way, but let's use the SSI way. So if we know that we're going to 40 meters and our first deco stop is 12 meters. So if you look at the maximum depth, which is 40, and then minus your deco depth, which is 12, we do this one first, divided by 2, and then apparently plus your first deco stop again, so which is 12. So let's see what happens. So this here, 40 minus 12, obviously is 28. So we would do this one first, divided by 2, because that comes first. So we also do this part, is 14, and then plus 12 will bring it together to 26. So this is our 26 meters of average ascent depth. So let's put that one in between. So how long do we stay at 26? And actually, you know what I normally do, and I forgot to mention that, but I'm going to do it now. I'm going to put this 26 between brackets so I know it's an average. There you go. Cool. So how long do I stay there? Well, based on our average ascent depth, which is 9 meters per minute, 10 for easy calculation, I can figure out how long it takes me to go to 12 meters. So we start at 40, then 1 minute to 30, 1 minute to 20, and 1 minute to 10. So give or take, it's going to take me 3 minutes to reach 12 meters. Now then, if we look at our plan, we had 1 minute at 12, 2 minutes at 9, and then 9 minutes at 6. So with this information, I can fill also the runtime out. So I have 25 plus 3 is 28. I have 28 plus 1 is 29. Let me just do that a little bit nicer. I have 29 plus 2 is 31. And then I have plus 9 is 40 minutes of runtime. So the bar, which is very easy, guys, it's depth divided by 10 plus 1 for our metric guys out there. So that's going to be 5 bar, 3.6 bar, 2.2 bar, 1.9 bar, and 1.6 bar. Now, the gas mixes, and this is perhaps confusing, but this is what is the cylinder content of your bottom gas or deco gas. So, as we remember, are 32%. And also during my ascent, I'll have 32%. Let me just do this a little bit nicer. I'll have 32%. At 12 meters, I am going to switch to my 72% all the way until the end. Cool. But my FO2 is going to be something else, which is something that I set in the horizon controller, right? This can be anything between 23 to -3 of the supplied gas. I set in my deco plan, and we want to be consistent with that it's going to be 26. So I'm going to write it down here. 26, 26. At 12 meters, we're going to switch, which is going to be 69, 69, and 69. Excellent. So those are our gases and friction of oxygen in the loop. So what about gas flow? So again, the sheets give you all this information, and this is a topic that a lot of people say maybe this is not so important, but at the same time, I think it is, because by visualizing what we are actually consuming by using this planning sheet, it will give you a lot of ease of mind when you're actually planning the dive, because that was the plan, right? And luckily, as you can see here, there is actually a flow rate formula for calculating how much gas we're going to use. So let's have a look at that. So let's have a look at this flow rate formula. Flow rate is FO2 times 2 brackets 1 minus loop FO2 divided by cylinder FO2 minus loop FO2. Sounds super complicated, but let's just break it down. It's not that difficult. And if I'm actually going to put the numbers down for what we're going to use, you will see that these numbers are readily available for us. If you want to know more about this formula, you need to speak to Paul Raymakers, which is the guy that came up with this. But no pun intended. It's just, it's not as difficult as it looks. So let's go. Okay, so we have something that we don't have an answer for, but I will get there in a second. So FO2 times 2 brackets, 1, which is the total loop content, minus your friction of gas that's in the loop, which we put on 0.26, divided by the friction of oxygen in the cylinder minus the friction of oxygen in the loop. And let's just calculate these numbers and see if we get a little bit wiser. So 1 minus 0.26. If you want to use a calculator, I always tell people you don't need to be a mathematician or a mathematician to figure this out. So 1 minus 0.26 is 0.74. So 0.74. Let me just write this properly. Very good. So we have this part of the equation done. And then we have 0.32 minus 0.26. So 0.32 minus 0.26. And this number is going to be tiny, right? And it's going to be 0.06. Excellent. So we have these and we can calculate them against each other, which is now if we cancel this one out, it's just going to be, we can also cancel this one out and this one out. So we will now have a very simple formula. But what is this FO2? Well, this FO2 is the amount of oxygen you consume per minute. For you sitting and listening at this, probably is going to be a lot less than 1 liter. But for the sake of this conversation, let's say that you use a liter a minute. You can also calculate it by 0.8 or 0.6, depending on how relaxed you're swimming. If you want to do it higher, that's also fine. But normally, I would say, leave it on 1. It's going to be absolutely fine. But we can play with all the numbers and see what happens. Obviously, the Horizon is designed to give a flow rate of maximum 3 liters of oxygen per minute, but probably your oxygen content will drop, and we'll see what the flow rate of this is. We can calculate it very shortly because that's what we're looking for, right? So before we do times 1, because we said FO2 is 1, but you'll understand that you don't have to do this because 1 times something is always the value. But let's just calculate this 2 values. So 0.74 divided by 0.06. So let's have a look at that. So just put this in a calculator. 0.74 divided by 0.06, which will yield 12.33. And I always ask people, what is this? Well, obviously it's liters per minute, isn't it? So there's our answer. So 12.33 liters per minute. I'm not really a big fan of rounding it up or down. I just like to use it, but since these numbers are always better conservative, I'm just going to call that 13 liters per minute. So our SCR flow rate is going to be 13. I forget something really important here. Sorry, my bad. So you can see here that this number yields 13 liters per minute. But this number, we still have to multiply by the FO2. So if your FO2 is 1, then obviously you do 12.33 times 1 is going to be 12.33. If your FO2 is going to be 0.8 because you're calm in the water, obviously that number is going to decrease. Let's just quickly see what happens. So 12.33 times 0.8, and the number will be actually 9.8 liters per minute. That's nothing. But let's say that you consume a lot of oxygen. Let's assume that you use 1.5 liters. Well, then you take the 12.33, and then you multiply it by 1.5, which will be 18.5 liters per minute, so maybe 19. But for this, I know that I don't use that much oxygen. I know that most of my students don't use this much oxygen, but you can always be more conservative if you like to. Let's for the sake of this argument, or well, it's not an argument, right? For the sake of this conversation, we say it's going to be 12.3, which we round up to 13 liters per minute. So obviously at the 40 meters, we're going to use 13 liters per minute. During our ascent, we're going to use, again, 13 liters per minute. So I'm going to write that down. And then we are going to switch to our deco gas. I have to do it again. Well, not really difficult, right? Let's do this one more time. So FO2 times bracket 1 minus 0.69 close bracket divided by what we supply it, which is going to be 72 minus 0.69. So again, let's just get these numbers out of the way. Open your calculator. 1 minus 0.69 is going to be 0.31. So this one canceled out. Then, or calculate however you want to call it, 0.72 minus 0.69 is going to be 0.03. So this one is done. Now, when we take these numbers, we're going to, again, put them against each other, 0.31, or divide them by each other, divided by 0.0, or 0.03, which is 10.33 liters per minute. Again, my FO2 didn't change, so let's say it's 1. So 1 times 10.33 is going to be 10.33. I'm going to make that 11 because I just want to be safe. So my deco gas sac rate or flow rate, so I should say, is going to be 11. It's going to be 11 here, and it's going to be 11 here. Here we see A times C. So it's very simple. We have A, which is the dive time, times the flow rate of the machine. And this is where I see a lot of people have confusion, right? Remember, this is regardless of depth. So this is why the SCR is so awesome. If you have a flow rate, or sorry, if you're an open circuit, let's just say that for a second. If you have a sac rate of 13, my sac rate is actually 13. I'm a big guy, but you know I have lots of dives. I'm quite relaxed on the water. If I dive with a sac rate of 13, I need to take the depth into consideration, not with the horizon. The horizon, just we look at the oxygen, how much we consume it, and that gets replenished. So the sac rate is regardless of depth, which is for a lot of people that have been diving the old-fashioned way, open circuit, they find this really difficult. But you can see here how great this machine is, right? Because the sac rate is significantly lower than a person open circuit, even if they have a great sac rate. So 25 is the amount of time that we're going to spend at that depth, times a flow rate, I should say flow rate, of 13 yields liters required of 325. 325 liters. Now, then we have our ascent depth, or average depth, however you want to call it. That's also still a flow rate of 13. But it's going to be a 3-minute, right? So it's going to be a 3-minute thingy. So that's going to be 39 liters. Then we're going to switch to our deco gas. Our flow rate is even going to drop a little bit. Fantastic. So it's going to be 1 minute at 11 liters, which is going to be 11. Then we have 2 minutes for a flow rate of 11, which is 22. And then we have 9 at 11, which I think, if I can do this correctly, is 99. Right? So far, so good, right? Pretty easy. So with this information, we can calculate how much gas we use for this particular dive. We need to calculate those numbers together, right? But what numbers are we going to calculate together? We need to make sure that we don't make a mistake here. We obviously have a bottom gas and a deco gas. So what I normally do is, and I use this program called Notability, which you can give everything another color, which is just a really nice way of seeing what we're doing here. But we just basically have to add these numbers together, right? Because this is our bottom gas. And if I take another gas or other color, I can calculate my other gas. So let's have a look at it. 325 plus 39. 325, I'm just putting it in my calculator, plus 39 is 364 liters. What gas is that? It's 32%, right? The liters required, 364. 364. Now here, you can add some conservatism if you wanted to. Is it required? It's another conversation. It's another discussion. I like to do it because I want to make sure that I'm going to have enough gas, right? So I always do a multiplier of 1.5. So we can do that. So we take the same number, 364 times 1.5, which is going to be 546. So 1.5 total gas required, 546 liters. Now, how do we read liters? Well, it depends, right? I mean, we don't really read liters, but we read bar or PSI, but you know, we're in a metric world. If you ask me, sorry, don't hate me. The standard cylinder that we use is an S80, and with a little bit of back calculation, you can figure out that it's 11.1 liters. You want to call it 11 liters, it's fine. If you want to call it 12 liters, I disagree with you, because an S80 and a 12 liter steel are fundamentally different cylinders. and they'll have also different capacities. But let's just say that the cylinder is 11 liters for the sake of the conversation. So if I want to calculate this liters that I have back to bar, I just need to simply take the cylinder size. So whatever you like, if you want to dive with a 7 liter, that's fine. If you want to dive in an 11 liter, that's fine as well. If you say, I like to, I'm diving in the UK and I like to dive with steel cylinders and I probably have a 12 liter, that's also fine. You just need to figure this out. So depending on what cylinder you have, let's say we are going to use a 7 liter cylinder. I've seen a lot of people that are a little bit smaller and they like that. So 564 divided by 7, because that's the size of the cylinder, will give me 78 bar. 78 bar for this dive. No, actually, let me just write this down properly. So we have a 7 liter cylinder, which is 546 divided by 7 liter is 78 bar. I can't read 78 bar, so it's going to be 80 bar. So this 80 bar is all the gas I need for this dive. Is this realistic? Yeah, it is. Because think about it. We also added a multiplier of 1.5, right? So probably you're going to use less. Yeah, but I use my wing a lot. Okay, yeah, fine. Maybe you have your dry suit connected to it. Yeah, that also works. So again, I think this is a pretty realistic number. And we just calculated it, right? But we're only there. We're only halfway. We only did our bottom gas, right? So we need to also have a look at the other gases. So let's just quickly plow through it. 11 plus 22 plus 99. Oh, I made a mistake there. 11 plus 22 plus 99, which is 132 liters. So we have 132. Let's put a multiplier in there. Times 1.5 is going to be 198 liters, which is going to be 28 bar or 30 bar. So this is 30 bar here. Cool. Excellent. So can I do this dive with 2 7 liters? Absolutely. Absolutely. Easy. This is the part that we say, okay, horizon diving is super cool. I don't need a lot of gas. Happy days. After the break, we're going to look at the bailout planning.